Anybody have papers to show me while we're waiting? Yay, Tracy. Thank you, yay. Okay, 5 o'clock time in. Okay, for the recording, thanks, Kongli. This is ACI Course 1, Class 9 on August 14, 2023. Pardon me. You know what? I have an announcement, and the intention, was to do our ACI programs right straight through on the platform for you. But it turns out ACI has gotten so busy that our schedule was conflicting with other things. And I decided to not start ACI 2 on the platform in September, but I am going to start ACI 2 in September off the platform. So sorry, ACI. One of the schedules will be my morning, this time 5 to 7 a.m. on Mondays and Fridays, starting September 11. And the other will be on Sunday evening from 6 to 8 and Thursday evening 6 to 8. So anyone who doesn't need translation, because I won't have translation available, is welcome to continue their ACI 2 with me then. So then that will start September 11 for the Monday and September 10 for the Sunday. So you'll need to reach out to me directly, Sarahni108@gmail, if you wish to be included in my list to receive the announcements and the papers and all that stuff, okay? All right, so that said, let's gather our minds here. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They're gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Think about how much you would like to be able to help them. How wonderful it would be if the ways we help could also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they would go on to stop their distress forever. We are learning that it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And with that longing, turn your mind back to that precious holy guide. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn, what we need to do to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands. And we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us using our refuge prayer. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every other. And let's listen again to Jetson Kappa. I bow to all the high and holy lamas. As far as I am able, I will explain the essence of all high teachings of the victors, the path that all their holy sons commend, the entry point for the fortunate seeking freedom. Listen with a pure mind, fortunate ones who have no craving for the pleasures of life and who, to make leisure and fortune meaningful, strive to turn their minds to the path which pleases the victors. There is no way to end without pure renunciation. This striving for pleasant results in the ocean of life. It is because of their hankering life as well that beings are fettered. So seek renunciation first. Leisure and fortune are hard to find. Life is not long. Think it constantly. Stop desire for this life. Think over and over how deeds and their fruits never fail, and the cycle is suffering. Stop desire for the future. When you have meditated thus and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of cyclic life, and when you begin to think both night and day of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. Renunciation, though, can never bring the total bliss of matchless Buddhahood unless it is bound by the purest wish. And so the wise seek the high wish for enlightenment. They are swept along on 4 fierce river currents, chained up tight in past deeds, hard to undo, stuffed in a steel cage of grasping self, smothered in the pitch black ignorance. In a limitless ground they are born, and in their births are tortured by 3 sufferings without a break. Think how your mothers feel. Think of what's happening to them. Try to develop this highest wish. You may master renunciation and the wish, but unless you have the wisdom perceiving reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. Make efforts in ways then to perceive interdependence. A person has entered the path that pleases the Buddhas when, for all objects in the cycle or beyond, they see that cause and effect can never fail, and when for them, those lose all solid appearance. You have yet to realize the thought of the able, as long as 2 ideas seem to you disparate: the appearance of things, infallible interdependence, and emptiness beyond taking any position. At some point, they no longer alternate, come together. Just seeing that interdependence never fails brings realization that destroys how you hold to objects, and then your analysis with view is complete. In addition, the appearance prevents the existence extreme, emptiness that of non-existence. And if you see how emptiness shows in cause and effect, you will never be stolen off by extreme views. When you have grasped, as well as I, the essential points of each of the 3 principal paths explained, then go into isolation, my child, make mighty efforts, and quickly win your ultimate wish. So our last two classes were about the second of the three principal realizations that we are working on. And that was the realization that I've got to become a Buddha in order to help anybody in that deep and ultimate way. So these last two classes are about how it's possible, why it's possible, why it's actually inevitable. So in last class, we learned that one of the two main methods for growing our wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings from a wish into a realization, direct experience. And one of those methods was the 7-point advices, of which there are 8, right? So someone can give me the preliminary one that makes 8 that isn't even counted, but so important the other doesn't work without it. Chris, we're reading your lips.
Sorry, it's equanimity. Equanimity, seeing everyone, treating everyone equally.
Yes, the heart that wants to treat everyone equally, right? So we don't leave a single one out. And then when we've got that platform, now we can try to turn this wheel of the 7 steps, which starts with what? Tracy.
Marshy, seeing everybody as your mom.
But I only have one mom, Tracy, and she's been gone a long time.
This is millions and millions of lifetimes where you've had many different moms.
Yeah, but they're all gone too.
They're all gone, but you can still, I don't know, you can still plant seeds for them.
They're all, those bodies are gone, but they're in new bodies, right? Just like I am. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Good. So although they don't look like my mother, I don't look like her child either, but it doesn't mean we're not that, right? Good, good, good. Nice. So what? Hi, Mom. Nice to see you. You're in my way. Get out of my way. Would we say that to Mom? You know, I hope not. Mom's yelling at us. Oh, yeah, we do yell back. Sorry. But all right, what's the second step? I don't want to take the time here. Second step, everybody's my mom. Victor.
We remember their kindness they have given to us when they were our moms.
Yeah. And the main one being life, right?
Yes.
And so that gives us number 3, takes us to number 3, which is you want to repay it, right? Yeah. So we're trying to cultivate this sense of what going through life, everybody we meet, you know, I want to repay you. 1, 2, 3. 4. Number 4 is what?
Develop the lovely love that a mother has for her children or child.
Yeah, nice. Do you see? So if we're going around with this sense, you're here and this is my opportunity to repay you for your kindness. That's an outgoing, here, I'll hold the door for you. Would you like a cup of tea? What can I do? And then what happens?
You have great compassion on them and you want them to be free of suffering.
Right. We see, oh man, a cup of tea is nice, but then it ends and, stains their tea. And that leads to what? Red lips, personal responsibility, right? That's a big step. Personal responsibility, I'll do it. She's my mom. I'll do it. And then what happens? Like, I can't do it until I really know exactly what that mom needs and that mom needs and that mom needs. And until I know their mind, until I know their karma directly, I can't really know exactly. And we can get a good idea, of course. And that's the practice. But that limitation, we can help. But that deep ultimate way to help requires that state of mind of omniscience. Yeah. The love compassion is creating our ability to be for them. But the omniscience is knowing what to be, what to do. Okay. So we can see how they come in groups. This group starts that group, and that group leads to this group. And the end of it is like, I've got to reach Buddhahood. Which happens by trying, not by succeeding, right? You can't succeed in becoming a Buddha until we become Buddha, and then we've done it. And then we actually start our career, right? And that's the idea. All right. So we understand a little more about renunciation. And now we understand a little more about the bodhicitta. What's number 2? Shanti asks. All beings are my mother, recalling her kindness so that we want to repay. All right. Third principle is correct worldview. In Tibetan, Yang Dakpe Tawa. Tawa means the way we see the world. Yang Dakpe, it's kind of redundant. It means a correct, accurate way of seeing the world, of understanding the world, right? It doesn't mean physically seeing necessarily, but what we mean by how we see the world is, our whole process of understanding where things come from and why, and how to react to them, like basically how to get the happiness that we want is our worldview. How we think we get happiness and avoid suffering makes up our worldview. They use both correct and accurate, which is too much really to explain why right now. But let's throw in a third word, which is valid. We can have valid perceptions, which are correct given the information we have at the moment, but they're not actually accurate to how things really exist. So to be this third principle that takes us along our path to Buddhahood, our worldview needs to be both correct, given the information we're getting, and accurate to how things really exist. So correct and accurate here have different meanings, different connotations that are necessary for our worldview to be a worldview through which we can reach the end of all suffering for everyone. Yang Dakpe Tawa. Growing this correct, accurate worldview requires understanding this concept we call emptiness and the concept we call the interdependence or dependent co-arising or interdependence, dependent arising, basically things depending on other things, which is not so profound. We all know things, rely on other things. It's what the other things are that is mistaken. So without understanding emptiness and how emptiness shows in cause and effect, says the verse, we can't reach Buddhahood. We can reach that we can reach nirvana, although not without some understanding of emptiness and dependent origination. But we can't grow our Buddhahood without this direct realization of the true nature of ourselves and all other and all interaction between. So there are two parts of growing our young Dakpe Tawa. The first is through learning about it, studying it, hearing it explained again and again and again, chewing on it, trying to apply it. And, for me, most of the time, failing to apply it in the moment, but, a few moments later, doing it again and again and again, so that we gain an intellectual understanding of the principle of emptiness and dependent origination that's keener and keener and keener. Then, second is to experience it directly, to see it directly, to see emptiness directly is the phrase Geshe Michael uses all the time. It's not a visual experience, but it is a direct, personal, undeniable experience of something that's profoundly mind-changing, life-changing, but meaning like whole mind stream changing. changed forever, not just this lifetime. For the direct perception of emptiness, we need to be in a very deep state of meditation where our awareness of sensory input is all shut down. It doesn't mean we're turned off. It doesn't mean we're unconscious, but it means our focus of attention has gone so inward that you could say you're no longer experiencing this desire realm. It isn't that your body has, poofed out of the desire realm, but your bright, alert, keen awareness on your meditation object is completely distinct from what we would call our outer surroundings and completely unaware of the inner chatter and stuff that's going on all the time, right? It's like taking that microscope from the plum room and just cranking your focal length down so small that although what you're looking into is still this big, but the things you're looking at are so teeny that all the rest has just fallen away and your focus is here. To reach that state of concentration, takes training for most of us. Some have the seeds and it ripens right away. Some of us slow studies. It takes just diligent effort and training ourselves in kindness to create the goodness for that result to come about. This direct experience of the empty nature of oneself and all existence is this necessary doorway for stopping the perpetuation of samsara. That automatic reaction to things colored with a mind that misunderstands where they come from is that underlying perpetuation of samsara. When we no longer misunderstand where things come from, we're no longer planting seeds with that ignorance. We still have seeds with that ignorance in them, but now we no longer believe it. And so our responses can be different. And therefore, we stop planting new seeds for samsara after that experience, which is why it's so important, right? So necessary for our transformation to be the one that will take us all the way to Buddhahood. So, to cultivate the direct experience, we use the intellectual learning to help us guide our behavior choices to grow the goodness that can ripen as the direct experience. Every time we hear about emptiness, every time we hear the pen thing, we're planting seeds that will bring us a little bit closer, especially if as we're doing it, we have that motivation in us that, wow, this is what it's going to take for me to be able to help people in that deep and ultimate way. which is why we set that up at the beginning of class. So to understand and cultivate this direct perception of emptiness, which is also called the direct perception of ultimate reality, we need to study about the topic called, I didn't write it. Excuse me, Dempani. Dempani. Ni means two, the number two, 1, 2. Dempa means truth. The two truths. Dempani. Those two truths, so I can put my board down, are Kunsop Dempa and Dundam Dempa. Got 'em? Okay. So these two truths are two things we need to come to perceive directly. The first one is the preliminary to the second one. Kunsop Dempa is the preliminary to Dindam Dempa. But these two truths, usually we mean true versus false. But here the term truth is being used in the terms of like the reality of things. We're speaking to our understanding of the how and the why that things exist and happen in the way they seem to do. So so it's really, these two truths are two divisions of reality. But when we think of divisions of reality, we think, well, here's a group of stuff in this division, and here's a group of stuff in that division, and it's one or the other. But the two realities that we're talking about is not like stuff's here and stuff's there. It's like the reality that's experienced, reality being experienced this way and reality being experienced this way, right? These two different ways of experiencing reality. They're called the two truths because they're trying to convey that this is really how things exist, as opposed to the way we think things exist. Because our experience moment by moment, we hold to be our reality. And within that belief in our reality is the sense that things as identities are in them. They have their own causes and conditions. They're out there, I'm here with my own causes and conditions, and they come at me and I go at them. That's our experience. We would say that's reality. It's true for everybody. These two truths in Buddhism say, yes, that's our experience, and it's mistaken. not that it's not happening, but that it's not happening in the way we believe it's happening. And that's where it starts to get really slippery, right? Because it's our mind automatically hears, well, if it's not happening the way that I'm experiencing it, are you saying it's not happening at all? And that's ridiculous because I'm experiencing it. So we're trying to like weave our way into recognizing our mistake so that we can correct it. But it's a mistake that we've made since beginningless time somehow. And so it's really difficult to actually recognize the actual mistake because it's so a part of us. It would be like asking a fish, you know, what's it like to be in water? They're going to go, how can I answer that? Right? For us, what's it like to be in air? I don't know. I've never not been in air. So we've never not been colored with our mistaken view, not knowing it's a mistake. And so we hold it all to be correct and true until we hear the pen thing. So Kunzop Dempa is this one aspect of reality. It's one of the two truths. Commonly, it's translated as relative reality or conventional reality. But more accurately, the word kunso means completely deceptive. Geshe-la says it means fake. You know, my husband tells this story that if he, I don't know, he was a young teen, and their family had traveled and they were on their way back. There was a stopover in Japan. So, you know, this would have been in the 60s. And the restaurant, you know, had food in the window. So you could look at it and pick what you want. And when they got inside, he saw that food was like, it was plastic. It looked really real from outside through the window. But when he got in and he looked at it, it's like, well, that's all just rubber, you know, but it looked really, really real. So like this is kunso. Oh, that's fake stuff. It looked real. But now I know it deceived me in that way. It didn't do the deceiving. It was fake, right? Right? You know what I'm trying to say? It's like the food wasn't going, I'm going to fake this guy out and look like real food. And maybe he'll eat me and then go, ah. But, you know, not like that. But in the sense is it looked to exist in one way. And then something happened and he goes, oh, it wasn't like that at all. So our ordinary reality, the way we experience it, we will come to have this experience where we go, oh, it was all just like that plastic food. All along, I mistook something for existing in one way, when in fact it existed in an entirely different way. Not that it didn't exist at all. When David recognized the food was plastic, it didn't disappear, but the edibleness his perception of the edibleness of that stuff on the plate disappeared. Right? His mistaken view about it disappeared. So that's what we're trying to get at. What is it that we're seeing wrongly, that we don't know we're seeing wrongly, that once we recognize we're seeing wrongly, it'll just disappear? Right? Most of us know the punchline already. What we're talking about is our belief that the objects that we experience have their identity and qualities in them. That we have our identities and qualities in us. And if I'm here and the pen is here and it's a good pen or a bad pen from its side, if it's a good pen, I want it. If it's a bad pen, I want to avoid it. And what I do in the moment should work to get it, should work to get rid of it. But have you ever noticed that it doesn't always work? So what we do can't be actually cause and effect, but we'll get there later. Deceptive reality, bogus reality, is referring to everything that we experience about ourselves and about, right, our moment by moment reality that we are holding, believing to have their identities in them from them. That's like looking in the restaurant window and seeing the food there and believing that you could go in and just pick up that plate and eat it. Deceptive reality, deceptive truth. We call it deceptive because things are actually appearing to us in a way that's different from how they really exist, how they truly exist. Really, that food on the plate is made out of plastic, so it's not food. Really, your car in your garage, what's it made out of? Right? How is the car analogous to the food in the Japanese restaurant? We're going to talk about it because it's, right? The food in the restaurant's pretty clear, but my car or me, right? That's why this takes time. So deceptive reality, things are not existing in the way that we think they are, which is why we are deceived by them. But it does not mean that they don't exist at all. It does not mean that things are not happening. Right? Our experiences are valid for the most part. So they actually want us to use the term deceptive reality over relative reality, because relative reality tells us everything depends on everything else. And that is true, but it's not profound enough to help us get off our automatic pilot of the belief that things are coming from themselves. So deceptive reality, fake reality, it's like a oxymoron, right? reality means real. Fake means not real. How can you have fake reality? And then in our analogy, we would say, oh, it's the plastic food that's fake. But it wasn't, right? It was his thinking that it was real food that was fake. Because the stuff was plastic. All right, so we're trying to work that out. How that is revealed to us in every perception. Says Jetsun Kappa. When we recognize that every perception we have is this deceptive reality, we can come to stop being deceived by it. So all existing things, beings, experiences, feelings, anything that appears is, for an ignorant person, deceptive reality. Because our experience of that always has within it our belief that its identity, its qualities, its causes are in it. And then we react to it in that habitual way to get it if it appears to be pleasant, and to avoid it if it appears to be unpleasant or dangerous, which is right to do. We just do the wrong things to get that result. Dundam Dempa. Dundam means ultimate. Ultimate truth or ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is the condition that the condition in which things appear to us accurate to the way they truly exist. Ultimate reality is the reality in which we experience things in the way they truly exist. So the reality that we pick up through our human sense powers is the reality that makes up our deceptive reality, because we automatically include in our experience of them our belief that they're out there, independent of us, and I'm here independent of them. And then we have this interaction that is happening, and it's happening in a way that we don't actually experience it happening in that way. It is happening, but we have it wrong. Ultimate reality is we're experiencing ultimate reality when we are experiencing ourself and other and interaction between in the way that's accurate to how it truly exists. How does it truly exist? I'm just going to go to the punchline. As karmic seeds ripening moment by moment. So ultimate reality is that availability of things to be whatever the experiencer of them experiences them as. Every existing thing in its appearance is deceptive reality, and it has ultimate reality, which is its ultimate nature that allows me to see it the way I do, and you to see it the way you do. The fact that we can all perceive this object unique to each of us is a nature that the object has that allows us to do that. We use the term it's emptiness. It's no self nature. So ultimate reality is that reality in which we are experiencing this thing as blank from its own side and my seeds ripening to make it what it is. So existence depends on these two realities, the appearing side and the emptiness of what's appearing. For the object, for the subject, and for the interaction between. And we will study all of those pieces in the course of the ACIs, if you stick with it. So all objects have both realities. They have their appearing reality, and they have their empty reality, their ultimate reality. And that's true for us as well. But you can see it's not one or the other, right? They're in every object, every experience. All objects' ultimate reality is their empty nature. Every object, whole objects, parts of objects, beings have emptiness, and every object's emptiness is complete, 100%, not its identity in itself, from itself. So there is as many emptinesses as there are existing things. It's not that there's one big blanket emptiness thing that everything comes out of. It's that every instant of every experience, the subject, the object, the interaction between, all three components have their own empty nature. So we want to clarify what we mean by that. All emptiness is the absence of the object's identity in it, from it, all by itself. Now we already know that things depend on other things. This pen had to depend on the plastic and the factory and the whoever delivered it from wherever it was made, and Tucson Mountain Motors gave it to me. All those things. This pen depends on for it to be the pen. And I know that. And yet still, when I go looking for a pen, I believe that the object has in it its identity pen so that I can recognize it and I can pick it up and I can use it. And it works. And it works most of the time. And so most of the time, I confirm my belief that the pen has its pen nature in it. And that's a mistake. Through that, I perpetuate samsara. In order to be able to recognize that the pen doesn't, in fact, exist in that way, I need to train myself to recognize that I am blaming the pen for being the pen, right? Expecting the pen to be the pen. I need to train myself to recognize that I'm seeing it in that mistaken way. All right, we're going to learn about it. It's called the gakcha. Yes, trying chips away at the ignorance. So let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll do the pen thing, right? Just to get it more clear in our mind. So get refreshed, go get your thinking cap because we need it. Okay, are we back? Alrighty then. So I suspect everybody's already heard this, but pretend you haven't. Right? So that you can gain some little nuance that maybe hasn't been before. And then I need somebody to play with me who would like to. Tracy, will you?
Yeah, of course I love to play. I'll play with you.
Okay, so actually that's not a good one. Okay, so watch everyone. See this thing? Watch closely. Trying to get it where you can see it. Do you see that little thing coming out? Let's see what happens here. Didn't work so well. Let's do it this way. Did you see what it just did?
Yes,
Okay, so now tell me, what is this thing, Tracy?
it's a pen.
It's a pen. We all agree it's a pen. Now, Tracy has a cute little dog. And if I hold this out to her little dog, what's her little dog gonna do with it?
He'll pick it up in his mouth and chew it and play with it
Well, why would he do that with a pen?
because it kind of looks like a bone or a toy, something that he can play with.
Okay, so to us, this thing is a pen. But to the dog, it's a chew toy. Do we agree? Like, honestly, check your mind. Does your mind say, no, it's a pen for the dog too, they just can't see it that way?
Yeah.
My mind does say that.
Or what are you doing with my pen? Give it back.
Yeah, don't destroy my pen. Yeah. But now put yourself in the little puppy's mind. And come on, really? Can they see it as are they chewing on a pen?
No,
No.
a
Even if,
plastic thing.
yeah, even if it gets ink all over them, it's still not pen. And we would say, right, because they don't have the word for pen. Right? We have all these reasons why we're still right to say, just because the dog chews it doesn't mean it's not a pen from it. So we need to look a little bit more. Hello, little one. Because if the pen's identity and function is in it the way we think, then there's something about this object that's radiating pen and pen's ability to write. And if that's true, that the object is radiating its identity somehow, then how could it be that a different being than me could perceive this in a different way if the object is dictating what it is? Now, did you catch your mind going, Well, of course, everybody experiences it a little differently. Right? That's obvious to us as well. So it's like we don't recognize the fact that those two obviousnesses. I still think the dog's chewing on a pen, but I do know that everybody experiences it in a way unique to them. And I'm still believing that that can mean that the pen's identity can be in it, but it can't. Do you see?
Yep.
There has to be something about this object that allows it to be the object I perceive and the one you perceive and the one the dog perceives and the one the fly perceives. And that, what it is about this that allows that is what we call its emptiness. That allows it to be different for each of us is what we call its no self nature. Right? We get a glimpse of it when we can hold our mind on 30 different people seeing this object and knowing that each of us perceives it in a way unique to each of us. Well, then why do we all agree that it's a pen? And no dog in the whole wide world would agree with us that it's a pen. No fly. You know, they say that's what it is to be human. To take this information and make pen instead of this information and make chew toy. So right there, we've glimpsed the emptiness of the object. It's a quality through that allows the object to be what we perceive it as. And every existing object must have that quality because every existing object is experienced uniquely by the experiencer. And that's true for the experiencer as well. And everything in between. So when we say things and beings and ourselves have no self-nature, it does not mean we're saying, hey, they don't really exist. They don't have any self. We're saying they have no self as their nature. Right? Meaning emptiness as their nature. Meaning no identity from their side, but not no identity at all, because here we are. So, right, we're going to learn all the nuances of these phrases that I'm using, because they're all significant and deep, actually. But we're tiptoeing, because I for sure don't want you to misunderstand and hear, oh, she said nothing really exists. It sounds like that. Deceptive reality, it's all fake. It's all rubber food. It's not, right? It is and it's not. And it's all no self. Okay. So when we perceive an object we automatically include in that perception that it exists independent of ourselves, right? Think of your collection of pens in or on your desk. They're there no matter what you're doing, right? They don't just poof into being when you reach for one. It's there all the time. Other beings, right? You see me as existing here independent of you. I see you there existing independent of me. But it's actually a mistake. Right? Okay. So we don't recognize the mistake that we're making because we've been swimming in it since forever. And we don't recognize the no self nature of things because we're so colored by their nature in them that we never even question until enough goes wrong, right? That we start wondering. Everything we perceive is deceptive reality. Because we're mistaking where it really comes from. We want to train ourselves to recognize it as deceptive reality. Because then we can change, we can learn to change those perceptions. Okay? Not by force of willpower, but by using our understanding. So back to our pen example, we need to ask then, why do humans see this as pen and dogs see it as chew toy? And who's right? You know, we have to say both are right. We want to say, I'm right, dog's wrong. But if we really break it down, it's like, no, it's as valid for them as it is for me. We're both wrong in the sense that it's not in it from it the way I'm experiencing it. We're both right in the sense that a dog can enjoy chewing on a stick, and I can use it as a pen or as an emptiness demo. But we're both wrong, and we're thinking that there's something in it that makes me do that. There is something in it that allows me to do that. It's emptiness. But then what makes me do it has to be unique to me, right? Because I'm experiencing it. So it's something coming from me that makes me see this as a pen, pick it up as a pen, use it as a pen. Not it. It allows me to do that. Something in me makes it happen. Takes both. Okay. So how do we come to see this deceptive reality? To see, I mean, we're seeing deceptive reality all the time. How do we come to recognize the deception? We study this topic called dendron. Dendron. It means dependent origination. On one level, it means cause and effect. But that's very, very superficial level. Dendron means things occur through dependence and origination. Like, who talks like that? Oh man, my key started the car because of dependence and origination. Dependent origination is the explanation for why we perceive things in the way that we do. Where does that really come from? And it's talking to the dependent nature that things have, which we understand, we come to understand on various levels. So just start from the pen still with a pen, something pennish in it. What does it depend on? Right? It depends on the plastic and the ink and the factory and the people who designed it. And right, it depends on all that stuff. And then on another level, we could say it depends on its parts, right? You have to have this part and this part and that part. And if you didn't have at least the ink and the spring and the holder, you wouldn't have a pen. So it depends on its parts. And then we could go further and say, well, no, this pen is actually also depending on me to perceive it and use it as a pen. So yes, it's a pen first, and then for it to function as a pen, it depends on me. And then we could go further and say, yeah, but like what part of it comes from it and what part of it comes from me, right? And our mind goes, well, this part comes from it and this part comes from me. And then we might go on further and say, yeah, but why even do I see this part coming from it? And, eventually we get to the conclusion, it's like at every level I look at it, I'm going to always find there's stuff coming from me for it to happen for me, right? That me is a big component. And then we look at, well, what about me is making that happen? And we do the same thing for our me. And I just took us through the 4.5 different schools of Buddhism. So that describe the different levels through which we understand dependent origination so that we can train ourselves to recognize it as we're going through our day, blaming the other for what's happening to me. Okay, so let's go through these 4 schools of Buddhism. Your head's going to swim, but look, I made this easier, I think. Here, you guys can do a screenshot. Where'd it go? Come back. There. I don't like screen share because then I can't see you. But let me describe this and then I'll go back into it. The 4 schools of Buddhism, of which there are actually 4.5, can be divided into functionalists, independence, and implicationists. And within functionalists, there's a beginning understanding called Hinayana, and there's a deeper understanding called Mahayana. Within the beginning understanding, there's two levels: Abhidharma, called knowledge school, and Sutra, also known as Sautrantika, called logic school. And within the functionalists at the deeper level, there's the Chittamatra, also called Yogacharya, mind-only school. Then the independents are also in this deeper level. They go deeper still. They're called Madhyamaka Svatantrika. It's not a tantra. Independent school. And then finally, there's the implicationists, a deeper understanding yet, called Madhyamaka Prasangika, or consequence school. These two, the independent and implicationists, are middle way. That's what Madhyamaka means. So we have functionalists and two middle ways: independence and implication. We're going to see this table again and again, which is why I wanted you to have it. But let me go back now and do it without the screen share, if you don't mind. So when we speak of a Buddhist school, it sounds like we're talking about over here is UCLA, over here is U of A, over there is, Harvard. It's not like that. These are levels of understanding deceptive reality, ultimate reality, and dependent origination that we go through as we are learning and practicing. And even within our progress, there'll be situations in which, we're functioning at one school or another, like we'll move in between them. But they're taught as if they're schools of thought, people that hold to this view as the highest view, just to help us work our way through the understanding intellectually, so that we can come to recognize when we ourselves are holding to that level. So each one is a level of worldview, going from, everything's in it from it, to nothing's in it from it. Right? And there are these different levels of understanding. Functionalist means that because something functions, it must have some kind of nature in it to do that function. None of these schools believe that anything exists self-existently. So to be a self-existent thing means to exist independent of any other factor. And none of us believe in self-existent things. We know things have causes. We know things have parts. At the highest level, to say something is self-existent means that it exists independent of my karmas ripening for me to see it, know about it. So when we use the term self-existent, we want to be sure what we mean by it. So functionalists believe the fact that a pen writes means that there's something in the object that allows it to write. Its function shows us that it has some nature, some writability nature. Because you don't grow oranges from a pen, you write with it. So anything that functions must have some kind of nature of its own, not completely self-existent. The two lower schools say things are not self-existent because they depend upon their causes. So for the lower schools, dependent origination, tendril, means everything depends upon its cause. And so nothing exists independent of its causes. Is that correct? Yes. Is it enough for us to stop recreating the suffering? No. Right? We've lived knowing things are causes. We blame the causes of the thing for the thing, right? We've got the wrong causes, according to the higher school. So they would say the emptiness of the pen means it doesn't just occur on its own. Duh, right? Nothing happens all by itself. Nothing comes from nothing. When we go past functionalist school to the independence, the Madhyamaka Spa Tantrika, they say, look, the functionalist schools are only talking about existing things coming from causes, but then what about existing things that have no causes? Like, what's an existing thing that has no cause? We just said all existing things have causes. But this higher school says, look, there are existing things that are causeless, meaning unchanging, which we'll talk about further later courses, like emptiness and empty space, meaning the place that objects occupy. Those exist, but they aren't caused in the sense that they weren't in existence and something happened and brought them into existence, and then the causes end and they go out of existence, like pens and orange trees and cars and friends. Changing things aren't, and then they become, and then they decline, and then they're gone. Unchanging things are either there or not there. They call this there or not there, unchanging, because it doesn't go little by little. It's just blink or blink. So consider Tucson. Tucson is a big city in southeast Arizona, Phoenix is an even bigger city in north central Arizona. And the fact that Tucson is not Phoenix is 100% true as long as Phoenix and Tucson exist. If, right, heaven forbid, something were to happen and Tucson no longer exists, would the fact that Tucson is not Phoenix still exist? No, because there's no Tucson to not be Phoenix anymore. Does it fade out of existence? Or is it just instantly gone when there's no more Tucson to not be Phoenix? Right? Our mind says, oh, Sarahni, it's just semantics. But it's not. It's a critical understanding the difference between things that change by way of cause and effect and unchanging things that are not permanent, not eternal. The empty natures of all existing things are these uncaused, unchanging things that we're talking about. Mind only as functionalists, yes. That as long as there is an existing thing, that thing is 100% lacking its identity in it from it. The instant that object is destroyed, its identity not in it is also destroyed, because there's no object to lack identity anymore. As the pen wears out, at every moment of the pen's existence, it's still 100% not coming from it. So when it's half full of ink, it's 100% a pen, not a pen half full of ink from its own side. But once it's completely destroyed, its emptiness is gone. Not destroyed, but just gone. So the independent school says to functionalists, you're only defining the nature of changing things to be depending on their causes. It's an incomplete explanation because you've left out unchanging things, but they're dependent also because they depend upon their parts. Emptiness is still a dependent thing because it depends on the existence of the object to have its emptiness. So there's no big uber emptiness. There's the emptiness of the pen and the emptiness of the horse and the emptiness of my tongue and the emptiness of these sounds. And all those emptinesses are parts of the objects that exist, and they say they are parts of emptiness, which doesn't quite make sense. So to be more complete, we need to say existing, changing things are all dependent upon their causes. And existing, unchanging things exist in dependence upon their parts. And now we have a more complete explanation that we can use to see why they exist in the way they do for me. And independent school has an explanation. Then highest school, the consequence school, Prasangika. They say it's true things depend upon their causes. It's true that uncaused things depend upon their parts. Everything depends on something. And at the highest level, recognize that the real something that everything depends upon is the experiencer's past behavior. And it's like, how do they get to that? The highest understanding of emptiness is because of the blank nature, the no self nature of every existing thing and being and moment, how they appear to the individual experiencer is forced on them as the result of the result of karma. Karma is movement of the mind, and what it motivates, it plants this imprints in our consciousness that colors that consciousness in the future into the experience that we're having. And not understanding that that's the process through which we experience, we miss the opportunity to create our future in our moment by moment interaction with others. So highest school, which is the Madhyamika consequence, the implicationist, is the level at which, when we function from that level, we are truly aware that we are creating our future in every moment of our now. And it's that level of awareness through which we can do that with greater conscientiousness of seed planting, which leads to the guidelines on morality, so that we understand what kind of behavior to train ourselves in that will plant seeds for a future of happiness for everyone. The other levels of schools also follow morality. They all understand about karma. The understanding as at a more beginning level. We understand karma and enough to say, okay, I don't want to make bad karma. I want to make good karma. We can try to live by that, not really understanding the nuances of the principle, and it's helpful. And then as we're working more and more subtly, we can work more subtly as our intellectual understanding of this process increases and our experiential understanding increases. And all of that accumulates into these direct experiences of the dependent origination happening. And then shortly after that, the ultimate reality of oneself and things. So the implication school, they have this term Mingde Shaksam. Ming De Shak Sum. Somehow this TAK ends up sounding like Shak. I don't know why. Ming De Shak Sum. It means labeled. Shak Sum, just labeled. Ming De means a name and a term. Ming De Shak Sum. Existence is things just labeled with names and terms. Just meaning in that way and no other way. Not just meaning deprecating. Right? I hear them say, oh, they're just names and terms. And my mind thinks, oh, so they're less important or they're not real or, yeah, like the wrong way I'm thinking of the word just. But here it means things are names and terms and nothing but. Can you feel the difference in that understanding? What does it mean for things to be nothing but names and terms? Pen's right. Chew toy. Ah, it tastes so good. Drunk driver hit my car. Where do names and terms come from? Imprints coming up. We're going to learn. And it's true for every perception we have. Names and terms, names and terms, names and terms. And that's what makes things what they are for each of us. So, of course, the big question is, how do I make the names and terms? The ones that come out had to have been put in. If they're in my mind, who puts things in my mind? Me. By way of what I am aware of myself thinking, saying, doing towards others. So we're going to unravel that again and again and again. So are we perceiving deceptive reality now? Yes. Yes, Sharon. Oh, no hand rise. Yes, no, yes, no. Yeah, do names and terms change for blind people? Yes, but there's still names and terms. Okay. We've always been perceiving deceptive reality, but we were never aware of it as a deceptive thing. We were calling it reality. One of the ways to investigate deceptive reality is, to slow the mind down enough to experiencing something. Meaning recognizing that in order to experience this whole pen, there's an instant of seeing color, seeing shape, identifying click, whatever, all these different little parts that are information taken in, processed, and then finally, bink, pen, my pen, good pen, bad pen, I want, I need, but it just starts a whole domino effect. But to actually experience the object takes these little snippets, moments of information. And then we'll recognize, wow, it's my mind that puts it all together into the whole, not the object doing it. We'll learn. when we're perceiving our reality, our deceptive reality, meaning ourself and experiences as they are appearing to us, included in that experience is that their identities are in them. This thing exists independent of me, and then I'm independent of it, and then something happens and we come together for a little while and then it goes back. All of that is happening, and it's mistaken in how and why it's happening. So we're experiencing deceptive reality and always have, but have never experienced it as the deception. And as we start working with it, we will be planting seeds in our minds, adding to old seeds that we've also created, until someday we will have some experience like you're standing at the stove boiling a pot of water and you're just looking, right? Checking out your experience of the pot of water. And suddenly you become aware of this process of bits of information and your own mind going, oh, pot of water on stove. Technically, me seeing pot of water on stove. And you'll have this direct experience of that there's no pot of water on the stove. You know, it's I'm making it into pot of water on the stove. And it'll be like, oh, this inkling of, and that's been true for everything. If you run and jump on your meditation cushion and you park your mind on that experience, oh my gosh, that's true for every pot, every experience, every me, every person, every me, you'll go deeper, deeper, deeper into, and nothing exists any other way than that, and never has. Pause, 20-minute pause. And then out you come, and you realize, right, that was ultimate reality. And in that, I met Buddhas. In that, I saw my own future Buddhahood. I now know how long it'll take for me to get there, what I have to do. You know, a bunch of other things we saw as well. Realizations come. If we went into that with a mind imbued with bodhicitta, one of the experiences is to see the face of all existing beings and love them. And within about a 24-hour period, you've come through these realizations of dependent origination, emptiness directly, the truth of the 16 aspects of the 4 Arya truths that we'll talk about later. And then you're back into seeing your world in the same old way. But now you know you're wrong. Now you are aware that you are functioning still within deceptive reality, but you know it for its deception. Geshe-la calls it discrepancy. You're very aware of the discrepancy between the way you're experiencing your experiences and how they're truly happening. And so you are no longer planting seeds with the belief in things coming from their own side. You're still ripening seeds with that belief, but because you don't believe it, you don't replant ignorance. And so with that series of experiences, they say you're on that conveyor belt to the end of all suffering because you're no longer planting ignorance. Now we have a lot of ignorance to burn off. And that takes time and sometimes lifetimes. But you'll never not know again. Yeah? Even in rebirth as a baby, you apparently won't be replanting ignorant seeds. You will come to see it again directly, fairly soon in life. You'll be in circumstances where you're guided in that way. You lose all doubt in your path once you've had that direct experience, because one of the realizations is that you weren't nuts, right? You know that was your first really valid, true, correct, accurate experience. And so nobody can talk you out of it or make you doubt. All of that comes about as a ripening result of seeds planted. And it has that effect on our minds as ripening results of seeds planted. So how do we cultivate the occurrence of that experience? We study and take vows and keep vows and etc. Right? So long story. We can cultivate it and it will happen. All right, so I haven't quite finished class. So there may be one question on your homework about self, DAK, self, and the different meaning of self according to the 4 schools. I don't recall exactly. If it's on there, leave it blank. I'll cover it at the beginning of next class. If it's not on there, then you can do your homework. So we have one more class on emptiness and karma. We'll put it together, I hope, better than I did today. But we learned a lot. Yeah. And remember that person we wanted to be able to help at the beginning of class? That's why we did it, is to benefit them. And that's an incredible goodness, to crack your brain on behalf of somebody else. So be happy with yourself, please. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Yes, Kunli. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Grow your gratitude to them. Ask them to please, please, please stay close, to continue to inspire you and help you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. That love, that compassion, that wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales. Share this goodness with that one person. Share it with everyone you love. Share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all just getting this light bulb going off about how their behavior creates their reality. How fun would that be? If everybody were to just get it. And then live by it. Just try to live by it. Imagine that world. And we've just created it. So well done. Thank you for the opportunity. So we're done. Recordings can all end. Kong Lee had a question. I'm going to stay. You're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to click off, okay?
A fast one. A fast one. It's not this one, the chart that you show. Okay, independence, because middle way group into 2, shallow and deep, isn't it?
Correct.
So can I put it like independence is the shallow one, and then the implications is the deep one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Got it. Okay. Good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, it's Chris. Yes.
This is kind of apropos of something different. In the reading, does it say what the 4 fierce river currents are? Do we know what in our book of lists, do we know what those are?
Yeah. The 4 fierce river currents are the 4 of aging, illness, old age, and forced rebirth. Or a rebirth, rebirth. Death, aging, illness, and rebirth.
Got it. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for asking. Anything else? Hi, Joe.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you on Thursday. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.